Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A CloudFoundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
Today, we will look at two special connectors. One is your file-based integration designs and one is for error handling mechanism, your mail connectors. You will have widely use of it, both of them in like more than half of your integration designs. There are high chances you would end up using SFTP mail in almost all of your integrations. You will be using it for sending the mail, alerts and everything. Out of the box, there are two SFTP connectors offered. One is your legacy one. Another one is an enhanced version which is V2. Old one, legacy one is much more simplified variant of it where you just configure host, port, username, password. Otherwise use SSH option. I would recommend to not use it anymore and rather use SFTP V2. For now, I went to a free online server. I'm trying to create a server on my local SFTP server. I have just one last bit is left where I need to allow the routing from my Wi-Fi router on a particular port. Once that is enabled, I can use my laptop's hardware as an SFTP server. For now, I just went to this website. All I did was pull up this information about SFTP port was this, username and password is this and the host is this. SFTP v2. I clicked on plus connection. There you have these options, where you can select authentication type either using a key or username password. Usually it will be username password, remove directory, avoid entering it here. It will unnecessarily mark it to a default directory. Then you enter your host here, then you enter your username, which in our case it was demo and password is password. You just enter it here and once you click on apply, it will show up as encrypted and the port. And again it has given you in line about the SSH configuration, if you are using that or proxy and everything. You would not be getting to use all these. Very rare, you use this Atom proxy method and everything, where you know you are redirecting your connection using another like a web service or your server. If your SFTP is linked to your Atom. Again, you can configure this connection timeout, read timeout. But avoid entering these. Let the default configuration of FTP server handle it. And the enhancement over the legacy one in this one is here. You can test connection immediately. You can simply click on test connection. Once you have configured the host, username, password and port, click on next. It will test your connection immediately. We'll do a ping, basically. It will show test connection successful. You can just close it and save it. Let's just say TP. Once that is done, you can again select your action, Get Query List Update. Upsetly. Let's see. I'll remove the update. Let's do a get operation. I'll click on plus sign. This will open up. Just enter some details here, like get regex date. Now you can either do this, create it or do it manually. Otherwise, it's best to use import operation. What it does is it essentially connects to your SFTP connection and see what all operations are allowed on the action that you have configured outside. If you click on import operation, you had set it up as get. Select your server you want to use for performing this action. Once you do that, it will reach out to your FTP server. See what all object types are available. Click on Next. It will finish importing. Again, all this would be automated based on the configuration in SFTP server. Tracking direction if you are using an import operation button. It would be towards output documents. Basically, you're tracking out the documents that are coming out from your SFTP connection. Error behavior, always check mark this. Basically, they will not. It will not abrupt or abort your process flow. It will allow you to send it down the catch path. Generate your mail alert and send that and everything. It does not break your process flow. Always ensure you are checking mark this. Again, if you want to do this, you can enable these kind of checks. Delete files after reading. Fail if unable to delete again. Include all metadata. You can have all these kind of information. Let's just save. Now again, let's do this. I'm going to enable tracking for this. That in my logs, I'm able to see which file came. If we are having, 10, 20, 30, 40 files, whatever. Now come to parameters, click on import. Here you can select the file name. It allows you to choose your file name. Either you can pass it like this or like a wildcard expression. Since I already know I passed it this value, let's remove this. Let's just put a stop shift for now. Let's see. what happens? If you look at it, it started like this exeking connector shape, getting the parameter position. That is readme.txt. I'm trying to search for. Enter remove, directory path is blank. Then by default, it automatically assigns it the root directory. If you look at the tracking file, name came in, readme.txt. And if you see, you got the content here. Simply just, if you see it here, it would show up like this. You have your data now. If I click on extensions, let me enable this, that we can play around with this data. Let's just save it. Let's add a try catch. Let's capture all errors. If I test it now in my extensions, now I can play around. Let's just give this dot. See what error comes in. Looks like it failed processing. It said access generate. Technically, no such resource exists. We got this error. Is someone using whiteboard annotations? Let's see if we can capture this error here. I'll simply use let's instead of a spirit in a message ship. What I do is add a variable here. Go to document property. Let's see metadata. Let's capture Ty gets message. And we will enter it here. Let's see if it shows us the error message, if it's being captured or not. It got the value. Let's look at the stop shape here. Now you know you have your error message. Now you can configure a mail connector to send this email alert. In case of such connection failures, you can capture it this way. Using the metadata property of your under document property type. And then here you can select it as whatever error came in your dry cache block. You capture that basically here. There are a couple of free ones for email alerts and everything. I signed up on this website app.centigrade.com. I can get the Boomi SFTP and everything. Server and all. I took this information. Essentially, your application stream would be giving this to you. You don't need to worry. This would be the server for it. This would be the ports, your username, and your API key. You will receive all these details. Now let's look at the mail connector. Mail send grid. Here I configured the host for it. From this information. Then if I had enabled TLS or SL, basically the protocols, I would have had to use these other ports. But otherwise by default for mails it is 25. Then I configured the API key and I got the API key generated, which I entered here. Mail connected. Mail connector is now configured. Now again, I can either do a get action or send, but usually they send. We never fetch any mail usually. In my mail connector operation, I can either enter all these details here or skip them. Let's skip it out from here. Subject also. Disposition means either I send the content as an attachment or in line in the body itself. And also I can define what type of content is going to be plain HTML, XML, or ED, or some binary content. Now if I come here, click on. Let's just give it a name. Let's remove this. Let's try sending the data itself in first place. But if you look at the operation, I hadn't configured anything. The mail would not. Boomi would not know whom to send the mail alerts to. What I'll do is I'll take set properties. And then I'll just go to the mail. And then I'll just go to the mail. Now anyone wants to guess what property I'll be configuring and how? Why would you be configuring a dynamic document property if you are configuring the from address to address? It is not a document thing. It is about the connector level. We can use process property. Yes, you can use process properties. But before that, we can use the properties as well. Essentially, first you would set up a document property. What you would do, you would select something like this mail property. Document property allows you to set connector level properties. Essentially, you know all these kinds of configurations. I'd select this from address. Now I configure the mail document property for the connector. But where do I get its value from? Either I can hard code it here or create it using process property, which is the best approach. Let's just name it as process property. And I'll give the here I can set something up as room address. To address. Now it got this value. Now I need to get other values as well. Again say mail. To address. Again, come to here drop down process property. Choose your process property. To address. Click. Again selective property. Since this is a very basic one, and we were doing inline disposition, not an attachment, we don't need file name and everything. We could have used the static values and hard-coded the address there. But we have used the process property because they can be changed dynamically using environment extensions. Or is there any other? Use case of using them. They are more beneficial other than that. No, that is the only use case and purpose of it. Allow you to dynamically change values with environment and email address might change or some. A subject might change. You enable it using this. Thank you. Now for your mail subject, you can play around with it further. You won't just restrict it to the subject. You can also attach date time with it. Let's add a hyphen space hyphen in between. Now let's add a date time as well. Let's do this. It will tell when the mail was being sent. Let's also enter some value for it. Let's save this. Again, let's save it. Let's test it. Also, Let's enable the properties from this extension icon. Let's save it. Let's use connection default. We want to send our data across. Click on. Now let it run and see what happens. It got the data. Looks like mail alert was sent successfully. If you see here, it got all the values. Test alert with the timestamp. With the value for both mail address and this. And this wasn't successfully from address to address subject. Your message ID. Boomi then sent it from this basically to the server level communication. And this was your host. And what data was sent? As it is, this information was shared across, which went in the body. It might take some time for it to show up here. If you see, we got our alert, something like this. Where's IngridNet? The email alert. You have your information now. This was in line. Rishi, can you again show how did you configure the subject to have multiple values? If you look at the mail properties, we configured something like this. We got the dynamic value of subject from there. And then this configuration, we added like static value hyphen. Then I added date time. It would build a subject, whatever keyword we entered with a space. With hyphen, again white space, and then the current date. It will concatenate them. Whatever you enter in, like line by line order, you can again move it up or down. That also you can play around with. Thank you. There will be a lot of times when you're configuring such properties, for your SFTP file names or this one mail or some other connectors. You can play around with the order and configure like 5, 6 lines, something like that. Now let's also add, before that, let's add file name. Let's say readme.takes it by default here for now. I come here. Add another mail property. Click. Profile element. Sorry, my bad, process property. File name. Let's remove the .text for now. Now I got my file name. Let's also add another property. file name extension, where I assign it the value of .text. I can change it later as well. Let's add a hyphen. Let's add date time. S. Let's do a -1 day. File name, everything's added, but I did not add the extension like, what is the file type? Does this make sense? Let's see how it behaves. Let's run the test. Again, when you add new properties, they would not be enabled by default. Each time, if you're adding a process, property or something, you will have to manually check mark it with each deployment to be enabled. Otherwise, it will not be enabled and it would not show up either. If I click on cancel, if I look at the extensions, only the ones that were checkmarked would show up there. I need to come back here, enable these as well. Now, if you look at it, they're enabled as well. Let's click. Let's run it and see. Let's change one thing. Disposition. Let's change it to attachment. Let's change it to text plain. Text plain. We want to send it as now, if you look at it, if you see, there's a new column now with a file name. It added my XT file. Right? With the date. Today's 20th November, we did a relative date of -1. It did that. And assigned the extension to a txt file. And if you look at the set properties in your logs, you'll be able to see everything. It started, here. Reading. It got the hyphen, it got the date masking relative date. Where it did the conversion to -1/19th and it got the extension property. And in your connection data, you'll be see all this information. Any questions on this far? Rishi, can you again track how you converted that message into a txt file? There is this option of disposition in your mail operation, which allows you to change it from between attachment to inline. Inline is basically your body. We need to provide that every time. Otherwise, it would not have a file name. You need to enable this file name as well. In that case, there will be a random name for the file, or we did not receive the file altogether. Well, surely it will be a random name. I understand. Can't we just save the get the file name and get the extension there at the same time, or do we have to do that separately? You can do it at once. Here you can just simply write readme.txt. I was just showing you around what all you can play with over there. Understood. Thank you. Now I also want to have a mail body. Let's just say Friday. It's a test alert. Please ignore. Let's save this. Now let's come here. I'm also adding a mail body now. I'll come back to the process property. I'll choose a mail body as well. Click. Click on extensions. Process property. Just enable this as well. Click on test. Let's see if it's now generating a body as well along with the attachment. Mail alert is sent. Did you understand the design pattern around all this? Now let's see if I do not assign a file name. What happens? Does it assign a random value on its own? How? Let's see. Now I have removed it altogether. There is no file name property. We'll observe what happens. How does it behave around? Let's see what it did. We'll come to connection data. If you look at it, it assigned a random value. If you do, epoch converter. It converted to the timestamp here. It became a .dat file. Thank you. That is why it is crucial to have a proper extension and complete file name. Now I don't want to again go back and edit. I'll click on revision history. See if the file name is still here. I'll click on lock and edit. I'll click. If I click on the save icon now, my latest revision 22 will be overridden with the 21st revision. If I save it and say override, now this becomes. We are back at it, with an older revision. This is how you play around with revision history as well. It will create a copy of 21st revision as a new 23rd revision. If you come here, this will show it as an older version and you can close it here. Now let's remove this from here. Let's see. Technical errors. Will implement try-catch with both business errors and technical errors. Let's add a map shape. Let's give it map. Let's say JSON to CV. Let's see. Instead of doing it manually, let's import it. Nope, it is this one. It automatically did this for us. Let's save it. Let's come to map. Add a flat file. Add element. Can we configure our email here? Instead of a map option, instead of having from JSON to CSV, can we configure our mail here? We can do that as well. You can configure that you can send it to email as well. We'll send a CSV to email. Let's change it as comma delimited. Let's use column headers. Now let's come to the map. Click. Let's do a string function. Let's do a string to lower. Let's go. I'll do it to add one. Let's see what happens. We got our message in the body. Instead of this, let's do current data. Whatever we captured as error, we'll capture it here. Let's see if it throws any error or it doesn't. We'll get to know. It failed. Let's see what is coming in this error message. Now, this is a data level error, not a technical error. I do not want to. I just wanted data error, formatted error message. What I'll do is I'll add another try catch here. I'll say business errors and just limit it to document errors. I put the try shape here in the catch path. Let's bring this copy. In my message shape, what I'll do is format it like this. This is a data error. Now let's see if I'm also able to add document property of file name that we know it happened. For which file? And then I'll generate the error message. Let's say error, and let's say this. Let's do a test. Let's say if you guys now look at it, we were discussing it the other day. How do we segregate and how do two try catches work? If you guys now look at it, let's say I'm able to set it up on the document level. If any error comes in transformation logics, it will get captured here. If there was another connector here and had it be a technical failure, we'll check that also. It would have come to this shape. Now let's look at our mail. Let's look at what data generates. If you see, this is a data for file readme to text error. Instead of this, let's remove this. Let's copy these three here. In the map. Let's remove this. Let's do a direct mapping. Let's come back here. Now let's also enable properties of our mail connector. if I run the test. Let's just change it to a smtp.gmail. That's it. It should now come and get failed over this block. It should not be captured here. If you look at it, it failed. It did not come to this one. It came to this path. But since again this was a failure at the connector level itself, mail did not go through. But otherwise, if you look at your message, it would show up. Technical and technical. Access Unite to SIMP Gmail. You got your technical error to this one. This is how you segregate your technical errors and your data errors and generate the email alert to responsibility accordingly. Now you can further play around with this. These three, they're becoming repetitive. To make it look much more cleaner, let's add a sub-process call. I'll say process. I'll say sub. Send message. I'll say data pass through. Make the recommended changes for me. Mail alert. Here, I'll simply click on this. Let's just save this. I'll come back to my main process. Now, since these properties of sending mail and the connection, everything remains same. We don't need to have all this repetitive like this. I can simply call my sub-process, which has this information. These are these three shapes. I'll simply remove this. I'll copy this. I'll paste it here. I'll remove this. I'll simply paste it here. Now in the action, let's use this. If you see, it should work now in a similar manner and it's much more cleaner. You see, there was no failure. You had your data. And this is how you go into a sub-process. If you click on log, you won't see anything. You go into step source data. Click on this blue icon always. It will redirect you to your sub-process logs. You see, it came through and exactly whatever was outside your CSV data. It came here like this. But otherwise, it would be something like this file content modified date. Any questions on this so far? Rishi, can you open the site properties? Which one? We just added to current data. Whatever information comes here to the ship will be passed in the body. We are sending the similar thing in the body and the file as well. If I switch it up to process property, I will be back with the information like this. Then again it will just be, in the attachment. If I click on test, let's change it to .csv. Since we are building a CSV file, if I click on and run it, did we set the extension there? Yes, we did. Now let's come here. This is how you segregate errors. Put it into a sub-process. You do not have repetitive shapes and everything. And it all looks pretty much clean compared to before. Now let's see what else we can do in this. Let's deploy this and see how we get logs in such scenarios. Again, you can only deploy to one environment at a time. You cannot have multiple deployments at once. Let's go to the management. See, the deployed process is here. Let's go to environment extensions. Again, once you have like multiple processes, avoid using this directly initially. Always apply process filter that it only shows up in all the relevant properties configurations to that process which you are working upon. Something like this. Now let's come here. Let's change this. Now, instead of this, let's leave it as README for now. Let's click on. Extensions are saved. There will be times when you have, a lot of processes and configurations. Sometimes the information might not get saved. You will have to repeat saving this action twice or thrice when the data load is too much on your environment. Now let's trigger this. Go to process reporting. The integration is running. It is completed. Immediately, it might not show up. You'll have to wait a few seconds for everything to show up here. Whenever you have all the information you see like this in logs, it will either be for connector or written document shape only. Nothing else. It is a written document. Which you mean? Written documents is basically, it's like bringing if you have any data that you want to bring out to your main process or you just want to see in logs, you use written documents, then it allows you to bring out your documents from that process level. But the sub-process that we use, it also has the option for the data flow. It passes the data to expand process. Yes, it functions both things. What will be the exclusive use case for the written document apart from logging the data? It is for bringing out the data from your sub-process to main process. That is its primary use case. If suppose in this we have a sub-process here, too. If we have in this sub-process, if there is some action happening here and I want an acknowledgement out in my main process, instead of stop shape, I'll put a written document. Let me show you how it will look. Apparently, if you look here, there is nothing coming out of your sub-process. But the moment I do this, put a written document here, save it, it will show, bring me this pipeline, which allows me to further play with the data that's coming out of the sub-process. I can have actions on it. I can continue my data pipeline. Thank you. Now otherwise, this is the use case of specifying passing it with correct naming conventions like get now you know what operation is happening at SFTP. We do. I did not specify get. It would have been a little confusing if it was get or a send action. Similarly, mail, I specified your send alerts that now I know here you will be seeing your file name which we had configured. You will see your content which you are receiving. Since we are using V2, you don't need to put in tracking ID for file name because it is provided by default in the legacy SFTP connector. We did not have this. We had to add this as well in the tracking ID. In your mail connector, you will again see all this information. File name, user host message ID subject, all this and whatever data was pushed. Now let's view process logs. Let's save them. Let's look here and look for now. Your process started, executed the try catch ship first one. That was the initial try catch. Once that happened, it came to the step FTP call where it called your FTP server. Then we had another try catch called business errors that got executed. Once it was done, we had our map where we were having simple mapping. There was no logic. It showed up like this. Then we have the sub process call. Then again this information set mail properties. It is inside the sub process. Then again we had the connector where we were sending the mail alerts. Once that was done, it came out. Since there was no error, it went down the catchback. Nothing clear, technical errors clear, and the process got completed. Had there been error, it would have showed up as warning or C, where you could have checked it separately. Now there is something little more interesting. If you click on Actions, you have this option of View Process State. It will show you shape by shape how it is getting executed. It started with start. It took it 0.036 seconds, came down the technical errors, try catch. Then it came down the aid of path init. Inside that we had SFTP call. It took it almost like 6 seconds. Then we had another try catch where we had map shape it completed in this much time frame. Then the sub process call. Inside sub process, call took 40 seconds, 0.40 seconds to call to the sub process. Now the action that is happening inside, it will take its again own sweet time. We had set up the set properties that took Zara low to E2. Then you had your mail connector which again took 1.142. After it did not have anything, the process completed in total of 10 seconds. This way, when you have big processes, just reading the logs alone, you might not be able to figure out where it got failed exactly. There might be some confusions with the process state. Wherever it fails, it will highlight. Let's see an example of it. Let's go to item management. In the connection settings, let's change it to tests app. Now let's see how it will behave, how everything will look. Extinction got saved. Let's execute process. Give it few minutes, it will show up in few seconds. Immediately, it will never show up. Like once you click, because the information gets loaded into the Atom Sphere UI. It got completed. Now let's look at the process state first. Technical error started. Spawn execution try catch FTP X. If you see, this means it failed except immediately came down the error path. The message ship. Then send email alerts, a process call, and all this action happened. Now let's look at the relevant logs. Info level. It came like this. Had I set up a notify ship with label as warning or error, it would have shown up here. Otherwise, it would be just generic information like this. Now let's look at the mail alert that it generated. See, we got our error message. This is how all this works. Any questions? If an error had been offered on the process, do we get the detailed info here or do we need to look at the subprocess? We are in your process log and process state. We can see where it failed as well, like subprocess. Yes, had it failed in subprocess, it would have shown up. Let's fail that as well. First, let's put this back in place. In the mail, let's change it to test.smtp click. It is now saved. Let's click on execute. It failed. It says error executing connecting to the mail server. Now, if you look at the process state technical errors, it started. Business error, it started nothing. It went down the path. It got completed. Here, it failed at this connector. It came down to the error, part of your technical errors. And there this action happened. And it can be viewed in the logs as well. If you click on View Process Logs, it failed here at the connector level. It will show up here properly. Only reason it came up properly with the red marking and everything, because we did not again put a try, catch or something, or like handle the errors for error mechanism as well. Otherwise it was, if you see this one, the SFTP failed. It gracefully handled it. It did not throw any red color signs and everything. It just sent us an email alert. But we have try catch there in place. Why it happened here? Try catch is on the mail connector and the SFTP connector both. Now if your mail connector itself fails, what will try catch do? It will send it down the again mail alert path, because that is how we had configured it. Even if this one fails, it will come down to again sending email alert. That is why it breaks there. It's a best practice to have a try catch before every connector. Not before every connector. Just at the start, you can put like this, where it will capture all your technical errors for any number of connectors after that. But what if we are using another mail connector and that mail connector failed just like here? There is no fix to that. Because if your mail connector fails, you will just simply have it in your process log. Parent process, run the sub process. Why we can't see the sub process in the UI? Parent process, run the sub process. Why we can't see the end process in the UI? In the log process, logs over here. You're talking about this process state. You can just quickly close it. Close this as well. Over here. Why we can see the sub process in over here? Because it is part of the singular package. You will not see it separately. It's an integrated part of this main process, not a separately deployed unit, which is connected to this integration. It is inside the same package. That's why. If I just simply created another folder and link something like this instead of this. Now this one is separately deployed integration. Then it will show up as log for both. But since it is all integrated into this particular package, it doesn't show up separately. Makes sense? Yes, it is. Any other questions? We must have the directory address there in our SFTP to get the file. Can we implement that on the event based? Whenever the server will receive the file, we will execute this process. Yes, you can do that as well. One last question. If we are calling a sub-process multiple times in different processes, that sub-process means the parent process is the sub-process for all the different processes. Like, let's say, setting create a process and call that child process and aggregate same child process. It get deployed twice. Because it's in the different package. Yes, the best way to do that is deploy the sub-process separately, that it remains free from the dependency on both of your processes. Even if I deploy the sub-process separately, but it get deployed with my parent process as well. Pointing to your, it will just be a pointer. It would not be deployed again. Then we can see two processes running in the UI. Is there any concept of reusable processes that's like we have used? Yet do we have some common sub-processes which for error handling or for another case that can be used in our integration? You can make anything as a reusable thing. Now this one, it's a reusable component. I can just move it to error handling folder and directly call that sub-process in all my integrations. Majorly, it is for error handling and auth mechanisms. Where you are designing project for an organization, you are doing integrations, you have 100 integrations. And for authenticating their APIs, they are using some third-party vendor, another application. There you have to do an AP. I call to generate the JWT like auth token and all before requesting for data with the token. There you can build a reusable process where you have that AP I call for token generation. In all of your process, you can put up that sub process call where it gets the token and you can use it in your integration further to fetch the data. I think thank you. Where you structure out your logs properly. That also you can have a sub process. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.